Hello and welcome to the Crown Hills kitchen. Today we are going to be making Chelsea buns. First of all, I'm going to clean my surface as always to make sure there's no bacteria or germs on there that will contaminate my food. Always a good thing to do. We're actually going to be working on the surface of the table to do a little bit of kneading exercise anyway. Okay, so that's nice and clean. Now the first thing I would like you to do, you need 125 millilitres of hot water, and I would like you to put into that 25 grams of margarine. Okay, and then I want you to give that a stir because we want that margarine to melt. So give that a stir and then leave it to the side till we need it. Okay, in my bowl then I have 200 grams of strong flour, bread flour, and to that I am going to add half a teaspoon of salt. We are going to add 1 tablespoon, level tablespoon of sugar, and we're going to add a heaped teaspoon, so just slightly over the top like that, of yeast. I always put that in with the sugar because if you remember, the sugar in this recipe is the food for the yeast, so that can activate and release all those carbon dioxide molecules. Okay, so we're going to make a little well in the middle. Just use the spoon to do that. We're going to add into there our margarine and water mixture. Just going to pour it all in, maybe save just a little bit at the bottom, and we're going to start stirring that together. Okay, bring all of that together, incorporating all your ingredients, just like we did when we made the pizza. Bringing it all together. As it starts to stick to your knife, we know then that we're going to get our hands in there and bring that together to make a dough. So we're going to take those out of the way. Okay, so hands in, bring it all together. Now this recipe is a bit of a different type of recipe. Usually when we're making cakes and things that go in the oven, we switch our oven on and preheat it so that when we put our a dish in there, the oven is nice and hot. This is a bit of a different recipe. We need a cold oven. What that will allow the recipe to do is for the dough to actually prove as it's cooking. So the dough will rise and bake at the same time. So we don't need any proving time like we would do when we made the pizza. Okay, now we've got our dough together. We're actually going to knead that for 5 minutes on our table. Remember, we need a little bit of flour so that the dough doesn't stick, and keep your finger on the top so that the lid doesn't fall off and cover you in flour. Okay, and if you remember the process for kneading, pull your dough towards you, heel of your hand, push down and away from you to stretch all those glutens and to get them working. And they provide the structure for what is going to happen in our recipe. You can pause it. Okay, so now I've been kneading my dough for 5 minutes. What I'm actually going to do now is roll this out to a rectangular sort of shape, and then we can start putting our fillings in. So I'm just going to put a little bit more flour on the surface, a little bit on the top so it doesn't stick. My rolling pin. Remember, you're going to be seeing the elasticity of your dough as you're rolling. It will stretch and then pull back again. So we're going to roll 1/4 of a turn so it doesn't stick to the table. We need to be able to lift this off afterwards. Okay, we're going to try and get this to about 1 centimetre between a centimetre and a half and a centimetre thick, okay, because this will actually increase in size and swell up as it is cooking. But try and get yourself to a position where you've got sort of a rectangular shape. Okay, if you need to, just manipulate it a little bit, pull it, stretch it into the shape that you want. But you will see those glutens working that elasticity, pulling the shape back. Okay, so we're about there. Okay, I'm going to leave it there, I think. Okay, get rid of that lump there. There we go. Okay, so on our pastry dough there, we are going to make a little mixture. We are going to put in here, we've got demerara sugar, so we need a tablespoon of that. Let's level that off, okay, into one of your little bowls. Then we need half a teaspoon of mixed spice, or if you wanted to, you could just use cinnamon, but I prefer the mixed spice. It's not quite so cinnamony. Depends what you prefer, I suppose. And then just give that a little mix together, and you can then sprinkle that over the surface of your dough. So just sprinkle that on. Okay, like so. You can just spread it out a little bit, make sure that the spices and the sugar are distributed quite evenly. Okay, like that. And then all we're going to do now is sprinkle on some mixed dried fruit, or raisins or sultanas, whatever kind of dried fruit you want. Please do not put in there anything fresh like apples or bananas. It's not going to be very good. Okay, so this is dried fruit. I'm just going to sprinkle that throughout. Don't overload it. I think we're about there. Roughly about 75 grams. Okay, we're about there. And then all we're going to do now is we're going to roll this up. So we're going to start at this end here, just fold that over like that, about a centimetre, and then we're going to push and roll to get our Chelsea buns rolled up like that, look. Okay, now try and keep this seam edge here at the bottom. Okay, and with your knife we're going to cut down. If you can see, I've just pressed down there and it actually crumples all the dough and things together, so you can't really see what's going on. I'm just going to take those two edges off there. Now if when you're cutting you want these about 1 inch apart, if you're cutting and you press straight down, your dough's going to come together. If you use a sawing action like this, you'll find that you keep that nice shape of your rolls more visible. And all you're going to do with that then is, as you're cutting them, place them onto your tray. Okay, so about 1 inch apart, or 1 inch thickness should I say, all the way along. And remember, these are going into a cold oven. Please do not preheat your oven. Okay. There. Try and keep them all at the same sort of size as well, so that they all cook at the same time. And you can see you have that nice roll in the centre. Place them with a good space apart from each other, because they are going to rise. My nose is running. There we go. On there. And these two that I cut off before, I'm not going to waste them. They're going to still taste nice. So I'm going to pop them on there as well. Okay. There we go. Now all we need to do with this is we don't really need the oven gloves, but it's good practice to use them even though the oven is cold. We're going to take them over to your oven, pop them in on the top shelf in the centre for about 20 minutes, okay? And then I'll show you what they look like when they're cooked.